Is Uganda the next powerhouse in baseball? I made a video with that title about 5 years ago around this time, and I wasn't the only one asking that question, with some saying Uganda could be the Dominican Republic of Africa. 5 years later, and Uganda is not one of the 20 teams for the next WBC. No Ugandans to be found on the 40-man rosters of any MLB team. But remember, this was not a country lined up with prospects. At the time, there were no Ugandans playing organized baseball outside of Uganda, nor had there ever been. But the country was full of potential. It had risen to become the second strongest country in Africa, just a couple decades after first taking up the sport. And now there are Ugandan players in the minor leagues, in Japan's independent leagues, and in U.S. colleges. Not enough to construct a lineup yet, but they're getting there. None of them have reached the highest levels of the minor leagues. But it's only been 3 years since the first ever Ugandan player entered the MLB system. It's going to take time. And one player looks like he's well on his way to reaching the big leagues in the coming years. So don't just look at the WBC field and the MLB rosters. Look at the amazing progress this country has made in the last few years. No country has come further along in recent years than this one. Today, let's look at all the Ugandan players in the MLB system and elsewhere. How far they've come, what they're accomplishing, what a Ugandan senior national team roster is starting to look like, and we'll try to determine how close this is to becoming the #1 team in Africa and a WBC qualifier team. Starting with pitchers, like any country that's just starting to come up in the baseball world, most of the top players we see coming out of there are pitchers, and one young pitcher has really been turning some heads in the minors. 19-year-old right-hander David Matoma is a Pirates prospect. As a 17-year-old pitcher in the Dominican Summer League in 2023, he made 9 appearances, totaling 16 2/3 innings, with 14 strikeouts. No runs allowed, 16 2/3 scoreless. But he was limited due to injury and faced competition within the team system. Pirates have a lot of good pitching prospects. 2024 Florida Complex League, 15 games, 22 innings, 28 strikeouts, ERA 0.82, WHIP 109. 2025 promoted to Single A, started out great, but one bad inning ruined it all. 5 appearances, 7 1/3 innings, 10 strikeouts, ERA 491, WHIP 150. Can't judge a pitcher by ERA this early in the season. In 29 minor league games the last few years, he's got a K/9 rate of 10.2. 4 pitches he likes to throw, including a fastball that gets up to 99. Top prospect among all Ugandan players. He was tried out as the starting pitcher, but now is most definitely a reliever. Joseph Deng, 17 years old and 6'7" tall, made history last offseason when he signed with the Dodgers, becoming the first South Sudanese player to sign a major league contract. From South Sudan, but it was in Uganda where he developed as a player. And since South Sudan doesn't have a national team, Uganda is the country he would likely represent. He attended SoftBank Hawks spring training last year as a 16-year-old, and will likely pitch in the Dominican Summer League, which starts in a couple weeks. His fastball can reach 95. Can't wait to see what he can do. Ben Sarankuma, now 23, was one of the first prospects signed out of Uganda. The very first pitching prospect, signed by the Dodgers just before the 2022 season. First year was good, 21 1/3 innings of relief, ERA 211, WHIP 0.98 in the Dominican Summer League. But the next 2 years were split between Rookie League and low Single A, and he struggled at both levels. So he wasn't brought back in 2025. Don't know where he is now, but hopefully he's still keeping his arm ready. 3 years of professional baseball experience under his belt and only 23 years old. He could be a key contributor to Ugandan baseball in the future. Couple pitchers in Japan, not NPB but independent leagues. It's professional baseball. Most of the players either dropped out of the NPB system or went undrafted out of college, comparable with rookie level. One is Kabenge Allen of the Asahikawa B-Stars in the Hokkaido League. The other one is Kato Edrine, the only lefty among these Ugandan pitchers. He's with the Hyogo Braves of the Kansai Independent League. Then there are a couple pitchers at St. Thomas College in Texas, Isaac Odongo and Nicholas Alemai. Not doing anything spectacular, just playing sparingly, but they're getting valuable experience as college baseball players in the U.S. So for pitchers, they've got Matoma, Deng, Sarankuma, Edrine, Allen, Odongo, and Alemai. 5 with recent professional experience, 2 in college, 7 pitchers in all, up from absolutely nothing just 4 years ago. But what about the hitters? 2 active hitters in the MLB system. 19-year-old Alan Ajoti was signed by the Dodgers prior to the 2024 season. Last year he was given just 18 plate appearances, batted Mendoza line, on base .333, one extra base hit. Not enough time to judge him yet. Primary position is catcher, but he's also been used in the outfield. 17-year-old Armstrong Mahuzi is the newest prospect, signed by the Pirates last offseason. Haven't seen anything from him yet. Shortstop is his position, could be moved elsewhere in the infield. Umar Male, along with pitcher Ben Sarankuma, was part of that historic first ever signing of Ugandan players to an MLB contract. But just like with Sarankuma, it didn't last for Male. 2022 in the Dominican Summer League, 18 games with a .667 OPS. 2023 struggled at the rookie level, then was given a brief shot at AA Tulsa. But that was it. He wasn't brought back for 2024. Just turned 24 years old this month. Don't know where he is, but hopefully he's still ready to go. Plays catcher and outfield. 21-year-old catcher Dennis Kasumba became well known on social media for clips he posted of the training he does back in Uganda. Enough attention to get him invited to the MLB Draft League in both 2023 and 2024. But he struggled at the plate both times. At the end of 2024, he signed with the Asahikawa B-Stars of the Hokkaido League, teammates with fellow Ugandan pitcher Kabenge Allen. And he did quite well. He's been brought back for the 2025 season. One college player, once again at St. Thomas in Houston. Joel Mukasa, 20 years old, is in his second year there. He's a catcher and infielder. Okay, so Ajuti, Mahuzi, Male, Kasumba, and Mukasa. 4 recent professionals and 1 college player. If you were keeping count, that's 4 catchers. I think they'll be alright at that position. But Ajuti and Male can play outfield. Mukasa can play the infield. Kasumba would be his starting catcher. Then you have 2 infielders and 2 outfielders. The remaining 3 positions on the field can be filled by other players in Uganda. Remember, the Dodgers run an academy there, so a lot of guys have received some really good training. Just not enough potential to earn a major league contract. There were probably a few guys that were close. Altogether, pitchers and hitters together, 4 active players from the MLB system, 2 that were in the MLB system in the last couple of years, 3 playing professional independent ball in Japan, and 3 playing college ball. Not bad for a country that had none of that just a few years ago. But the most important question is, how do they stack up versus South Africa? That is the most important country for Uganda to compare itself with. Obviously, Uganda's number 2 in Africa, South Africa's number 1. So if you want to be number 1, you got to beat number 1. But not only that, South Africa represents about the minimum requirement for getting an invite to the WBC qualifier. They weren't the worst team at the last qualifiers. I think they were better than China, but China had to be there since they were relegated from the WBC. South Africa was last in its group, a long shot to qualify. Needless to say, if you want to make it to that stage, you need to be at least as good as South Africa. You might just say, compare the 2 countries the last time they faced off, but for that we'd have to go all the way back to 2019. The 2 countries met in the final of the African Baseball Championships, with South Africa winning 28-0. Uganda similarly had no trouble with the other African countries. For a while now they've been stuck in between. Not good enough to hang with South Africa, too good for the rest of Africa. But it's not fair to look at Uganda in 2019. All the big steps they've taken have been in the last few years. We want to know what a 2025 Uganda team could do. If we look back at South Africa's WBC qualifier team from this year, and the players that we've mentioned in this video from Uganda, comparing their professional resumes, they match up pretty well. Among hitters, I may even say Uganda is ahead. South Africa had Victor Ngope, a former single-A infield prospect who's been out of the MLB system for 6 years. Uganda's got 2 active hitting prospects, and another very recent one. South Africa also had a couple good hitters from Europe, one from the Czech League, one from the German League. But Uganda's got a hitter from a Japanese independent league. Then among pitchers, Uganda has 2 active prospects and another very recent one. South Africa only had 2 pitchers with professional resumes. But we're not talking about a 2-year single-A dropout. They had Dylan Unsworth, a pitcher who is pretty good in AAA, threw a no-hitter in the Mexican League, also pitched in Taiwan and Venezuela, a pitcher they could call their ace. Uganda has no one close to that. All their pitchers have been relievers. If they want to match South Africa in pitching, they'd have to have a bullpen game. And not only Unsworth, South Africa also had Justin Erasmus. He pitched in Single A, Frontier League, and several years in the Australian League. Unsworth and Erasmus were used back-to-back in the opening game, and that's why they were able to take Nicaragua to extra innings. After that, they had nothing, and they got blown out twice. Without a good starting pitcher, Uganda would look more like South Africa in their last two games. If the two countries were to meet this year in a meaningful game, South Africa would use Unsworth or Erasmus, or maybe both. And it would be hard for Uganda to match up with South Africa's pitching, with their pitching staff full of relievers. So that's one thing Uganda's really missing, a starting pitcher. Another thing they're missing is national team experience. That was a big strength for South Africa going into the qualifier. They may not have had much professional experience, but most of their players had been with the national team for several years, playing in various international tournaments, including the previous qualifier. Ugandan players just haven't had that many chances to play as a team versus other countries. And that's really important. I'd say more important than the starting pitcher issue. For those Ugandan players who've never played abroad, that's about half the lineup and over half the roster, only have experience playing against each other, while the entire South African roster has experience playing against many countries around the world. So, is Uganda ready to overtake South Africa as the #1 country in Africa and take their place in the WBC qualifier? Not yet. But they're getting close. If they can make as much progress in the next few years as they have in the last few years, then they might. The Dodgers and Pirates will continue signing players from Uganda. Other players will go to Japan. Some will go to the US to play college ball. This will keep happening year after year, and before long they'll have a whole roster full of players with professional or at least US college experience, hopefully including a couple starting pitchers. Then, if they can get the chance to play in more international tournaments, there's no telling what they can do. Anyway, that's all for this one. Until next time, this is Baseball International. See ya!